Adjudicators, chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. According to the affirmative side first speaker, Rainey, she just said that McDonald's, such as fast food, has increased the obesity rate and as well as the illness diabetes in the world. However, we do not agree with it because actually, according to the latest report from the Food Safety Center, it is stated that actually many food available in the current market are also unhealthy. Let's start with the trans fat content. For example, a coconut bun and a croissant can have 10 times to 19 times of the trans fat content of that of the McDonald's French fries. And for the saturated fat content, actually a 93 gram of coconut bun with cream can have 1.1 gram of saturated fat, more than that of McDonald's McNugget. And for the cholesterol, actually a 130 gram of French croissants can have 5 grams of cholesterol, more than that of the pop chops provided by the fair food. So that it is unfair for us to blame the fast food for bringing unhealthy food and for causing obesity in the world. Actually, many food in the nowadays society also unhealthy to our health. And secondly, I'm going to talk about the illness diabetes. As they say that the fast food restaurant have caused the illness diabetes. However, I want to say that this kind of diseases will happen if we don't do exercise. So if we don't do exercise, no wonder we have these diseases. So I think it is so misleading for us to tell that argument because it's not the only privilege of the fast food shops. However, we cannot deny that fast food restaurants really provide advantages to the nowadays busy public. So firstly, fast food restaurants provide food which is really convenient to the general public. Living in such a fast-paced and busy city, eating fast is vital to our daily lives. According to the latest Robinson telephone survey, it is found that Americans value convenience much more than their health. Among 42% of Americans eat fast food at least once a week, while 12% eat 2 to 3 times a week. Among those who eat fast food, about half of them do so because of its convenience instead of its taste. So that when we eat in a fast food restaurant, we just need to wait for 5 to 10 minutes to get our food and then spend another minutes to finish the whole set of meal. When comparing with other normal restaurants, it is really much more convenient for us to eat in a fast food restaurant. So undeniably, some of fast food shops like McDonald's may not be known for providing some of the unhealthy food, such as French fries. However, it is not fresh news. If people have already known that fast food restaurants may not be as healthy as those homemade food, and they still eat them so often, can't we deduce that those people have already forgotten their health for convenience? Secondly, it is the market demand that drives the supply. Foreseeing the trends of the prior preference, many fast food restaurants emerge one by one eventually. In recent decades, there are more and more Chinese restaurants start fast food chains, and now fast food is not only the delicacy of the Western countries. Actually, many Chinese restaurants do start fast food chains such as Messing, Café de Coral, and Fairwood. And many Hong Kong people do have lunch in this eatery, and their market shares are so large that some of them can even go listed. So that it is only the demand that brings the supply, and it is unfair for us to blame for the supply only, because only with the supply and without the demand, it cannot stand. And thank you.
Good afternoon. Today our debate on fast food and the restaurant that serve it is drawing to a close. Our job today was simple. We had to decide whether or not fast food restaurants were causing more harm than good. And if you were only to look at the fact that the food was seriously damaging our health, you would have to agree with the motion. However, we looked beyond this and went on to say that the companies that sell it are morally deficient. But before I summarize our case, let me address a few spurious comments made by the negative team. Their first speaker said that McDonald's sells salads and corn, sweet corns, and some healthy food. Maybe they do, but you can't find it on their main board. You have to ask for the menu, so they're obviously not serious about selling healthy food. Anyway, a McDonald's salad has between 200 to 600 calories in it. Their first speaker and their second speaker said that fast food restaurants includes restaurants like Fairwoods and Café de Crown. If you say Café de Crown or Fairwoods in New York, no one will know what you are talking about. And the whole world knows McDonald's. And McDonald's accounts for 43% of the whole fast food industry. They say it isn't bad for you. Who are you going to believe? The former US Surgeon General, the FDA, head of the WHO, Margaret Chan, or the negative team? Now, if I may, I'd like to summarize our case. From the beginning, we've urged you all today that we need to stop clowning around with our food and start taking our diet seriously. Our first speaker focused primarily on just how unhealthy the food was. She clearly defined the motion and stated that if we didn't talk about McDonald's, then we'd be missing the point of this debate today. She told us that 1 billion of us are overweight, and 300 million are obese. And obesity rates since the 1980s has doubled, and the number of McDonald's restaurants have tripled. We went from 10,000 restaurants in the 80s to over 30,000 today. And even they claim to feed 65 million people a day. 65 million people being fed food that will ultimately make them sick. And what kind of sicknesses? According to the FDA, they included diabetes, heart and stroke disease, as well as cancers such as colon and breast. In fact, these illnesses are killing 400,000 Americans per year. The second most preventable death next to smoking. And speaking of death, former US Surgeon General Richard Carmona gave us all a stark warning. Today's children will be less healthy as well as have shorter lives than their parents. She went on to explain that the average McMeal had tremendous amounts of trans fatty acids, copious amounts of cholesterol, scads of sodium and sugar. In fact, there are so many calories that the average person has to walk about 7 hours to work it off. And this wasn't just America's problem, as McDonald's announced this spring that they will be aggressively expanding in China. Our second speaker, Mandy Chow, said that fast food restaurants do more harm than good because they were morally deficient. Fast food companies deliberately create more rubbish for profit. They are also devoid of moral character because they aggressively target innocent children. They brainwash children through advertising and giving out toys. Stanford University research showed that children prefer food that came out of a McDonald's bag than a plain one. Heck, children even recognized Ronald McDonald before Jesus Christ. She then reminded us that the time had come for us all to quit clowning around with our food and to start taking the food we eat seriously. Ray Kroc once said, "Look after the customer and the business will take care of itself." And sadly, they are no longer doing this. Thank you.
Adjudicator, chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Being the negative side, we totally disagree with today's motion. That is, we believe that fast food restaurants didn't bring much harm than good. Actually, fast food restaurants exist due to people's preference, the convenience it brought, and the importance of demand and supply. Therefore, we think that fast food restaurants are not responsible for bringing the harm. First, I would like to draw your attention to arguments made by the affirmative side. When the negative side mentioned about the convenience brought by the fast food restaurants, the negative side argued that people eat fast food restaurants and they die early as a result. But is it comparable? I bet not. Also, they said that children has no choice to make the judgment, but however, do their parents have a choice? I'm certain that the parents will make the best judgment for them. The affirmative side has mentioned about EPA's result, which they claim that fast food restaurants generate plastic waste due to instant bowls and cups. However, the restaurants other than the fast food restaurants provide plastic utensils. Do plastic restaurants solely provide environmental unfriendly utensils? I bet not. Indeed, Fairwood and Messams use renewable cups and dishes, which is beneficial to the environment. Another point is that fast food restaurants like McDonald's have contributed to the environmental industry indeed. So we shouldn't put the blame to the fast food restaurant due to their use of the instant utensils. The affirmative side has also mentioned that even if the whole world knows McDonald's, it cannot deny that there are still many fast food restaurants in the world. It is misleading to say that. We cannot use McDonald's as the representative to represent the whole fast food industry. So we cannot deny that there are more local fast food restaurants in the places worldwide. Let me summarize the points that my teammates has previously mentioned. People choose fast food restaurants due to their preference, and their functions is to cater people's needs. We can never deny this point. It is certain that people have freedom to choose better stuff on the menu. People can have balanced diets as well if they choose a better option in the menu. The negative side has provided a practical example for us that Joe D'Amico have McDonald's meal in the whole month, but it turned out to be he didn't gain weight, and he had outstanding performance than before. This has well proven that fast food restaurants are not as unhealthy as people imagine. Secondly, we cannot deny that there are numerous fast food restaurants in every conceivable corner in this hustle and bustle. Swarms of people queued up in the fast food restaurants to have lunch, and they choose this because of the convenience it brought. Another point is that fast food restaurants has a market share in the whole market as more and more fast food restaurants emerge in today's society. People love it because they have their tummy filled within a couple of minutes. So why blame fast food restaurants? In no doubt, fast food restaurants provide products that millions of people enjoy. Otherwise, if we do not choose fast food restaurants as our choice, they wouldn't exist in such a great demand. Therefore, today's motion must fall.